Other interesting political news, you have the UAW strike being controlled by career socialists and Shawn Fain making about $350,000 per year while wearing a shirt that says "Eat the Rich." And I did some fact checking. He is in fact not the uncle or boyfriend of AOC, also known as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who famously is a very successful politician and social media personality. And she wore a dress that said "Eat the Rich" while she herself is rich. Perhaps these people just can't see their irony or their hypocrisy. It's beyond fathom, to say the least. Now, this comes thanks to the dailymail.com, which, A+ for marketing, you know exactly what they do. They give you mail on the daily. Makes sense. Now, this is coming from their writer by Louis Pennick saying, quote, career socialist activists are pulling the strings on the UAW strike that cost the economy $7.7 billion and claimed 6,000 jobs. Eat the Rich union leader on $350,000 salary is being advised by hardcore left-wingers who want class warfare, unquote. Which makes sense. We've been covering the Shawn Fain interviews or the live streams since the inception of the UAW strike, and the vernacular he uses is a political vernacular. And granted, maybe would say maybe would say his career is basically a glorified divorce attorney to create conflict between the two groups, and that's how he profits and, I was going to say, proves the justification for their existence. But it'll be interesting to see, who are these politicians? Well, you probably know many of them. Now, it looks like they have also ordered, now the ticker in terms of how many employees they're paying not to work, or UAW workers, well, hard to delineate when they're working or not working depending on what they're doing. But nevertheless, it looks like about 30,000 workers have been walked off thus far, part of the UAW strike. Again, that strike is between the big three, or what it used to be the big three when they were big. Don't get me wrong, they still are, but they used to be darn near monopoly in terms of global market share. But you had Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis. Used to be Chrysler, but they went bankrupt so bad in 2009, partially because of the union, that they were bought out by Fiat in Europe, and that company, holding company, became a holding company, rebranded itself to Stellantis recently. Now, in terms of specific, some of Shawn Fain's closest advisors, and remember, he's the elected president of the United Auto Workers. Now, some of his close advisors, cynically termed New York intellectuals by critics, have little or no experience on factory floors or as UAW members, which, I mean, again, it makes sense. They're politicians. But nevertheless, let's see here. And they sources which knowledge of the auto worker contract negotiations claim that the advisors do not have the workers' best interests at heart. Which, again, that makes them the perfect metaphor. Well, no, they just are politicians. They're just doing what they want for themselves. Which, hilariously, you see the same group of politicians say, oh yeah, we care about the little guy, but they have the policies that actually destroy the middle class, they destroy the lower income. Perverse incentives are terrible. But nevertheless, getting back to the actual article. Now, the strikes could run a lot of weeks, and some analysts are saying they cost the U.S. economy $7.7 billion, according to some analysts. Many union members who are earning, interesting how they're framing this, they're saying they're earning just $500 per week. You're getting $500 per week to stand there with a sign and a t-shirt? That's a pretty good deal, if you ask me. You know, back in my day, earlier in my career, I made a lot less for doing a lot more work. And since I'm self-employed, depending on how the business is doing, I would argue, some weeks are like that too. It's one of the variables when you have a small business is you control your own fate, and some, the highs and lows roller coaster. But nevertheless, it looks like Shawn Fain, who is 54, was narrowly elected as UAW president in March and was paid around $350,000 by the union last year. And he's carved out the reputation as a revolutionary leader. There is ambitious demands and appearances at rallies while wearing a t-shirt that says, "Eat the Rich." Which, again, there are only very few examples of when it's appropriate to wear a t-shirt. And in one of these cases, we covered in the live stream, he was in his office. So he was in his office wearing a t-shirt. Ridiculous. Everyone knows that every man worth his salt suits up. Always. It's one of those things that you cost a lot of money. You can go to a Goodwill store and get one for, I believe, under $100. I mean, but nevertheless, Shawn Fain, he even had the UAW logo on it, which, again, in terms of being a socialist organization, many would say, it's on brand. So this is, a lot of people ask me in the comments, why do I think this is political content? Well, they overwhelmingly help politicians get elected, which is ironically hilarious because those politicians are pushing EVs and banning the most profitable things the UAW makes, as well as causing hyperinflation. So, ironic and hilarious, they're causing the things they complain about the most. And yeah, he has "Eat the Rich" on a UAW branded t-shirt, which, again, for marketing makes sense. He's a politician doing what politicians do. I also am starting to think the average union member may start to realize perhaps he doesn't have their best intentions at heart. Perhaps they're asking so much, it very well may bankrupt the companies again. Because again, GM and Chrysler went bankrupt in 2009 in part because of the high absorbent cost of the unions. Not just the cost of paying someone $75 to put a tire on a car, which is ridiculous. In full transparency, that is a mixture of their actual cash wages as well as the myriad of benefits they get. But that's just not industry competitive and also just ridiculous. Now, in terms of this actual article, you have, of course, they say that the mastermind behind Fain's approach is believed to be his de facto in chief, Chris Brooks, who is pictured here left, with Bernie Sanders, who has never contributed anything to society because he's been a leech, just pushing for socialism. I don't believe he's ever created a job or really done any really true work in his life, just leeching off others who work for a living, which is perhaps the best metaphor for socialism. Now, he has been nicknamed Shawn's brain for his influence over the UAW leader. Now, they say that controversy around his leadership began weeks before he was elected when he suddenly fired a team of his closest advisors, including several veterans of the union and auto industry, and surrounded himself with social activists. Some have made careers out of socialist activism with their previous roles as writers, commenters, and members of Bernie's 2020 presidential campaign. Some critics have termed them carnies for apparently jumping from organizations to push their hard left agenda, then move on. It's an interesting nickname. I'll go with it. Leaked private messages and strategy documents written by members of Fain's inner circle reveal their goal is to launch unprecedented strike action, keep car companies wounded for months, and purge union staff who don't agree with their radical approach. Which, I was going to say, another perfect example of socialism. Purge everyone who is not the same as you. Now, Fain has also deployed a new approach in the industrial action by gradually increasing the number of union members on strike rather than calling out for a full walkout immediately. The mastermind behind Fain's approach is believed to be his de facto in chief, Chris Brooks, 39. Again, he's nicknamed Fain's brain, which I was going to say any substitute perhaps is better. I don't know. Now, Brooks, who often sits behind Fain at negotiations of the Big Three, is a left-wing journalist, activist, and one-time member of the Bread and Roses caucus of the Marxist organization within the Democratic Socialists of America. The DSA recently drew fierce criticism for allegedly sympathy some members towards Hamas. I was going to say, the beautiful thing about free speech is that the more speech you allow, the more you know someone. Which is why I'm always an advocate of, yes, let everyone speak, then you'll know their true intentions. Now, it looks like a labor study graduate. Brooks was previously a field director of News Guide of New York and wrote for Labor Notes and other left-wing publications. Which, again, there's such thing as a labor studies graduate. Ridiculous, to say the least. And people wonder why they're in so much debt. Let's see here. Another recent recruit, UWA Communications Director Jonah Furman, joined after a stint as an organizer for Bernie Sanders' 2020 presidential campaign. Furman, who drafts media statements for Fain, has been referred to as the shadow president of Jonah by activists. Fain is also flanked by negotiations Benjamin Dictor, a lawyer who serves as the union's outside counsel. Dictor describes himself on Twitter as an aspiring conciliary to the working class, making my mob metaphor all more apt. Let's see here. Lawyer serves as dictator. So is anyone really surprised? Let's see. Late transition. Yeah, a transition plan written by Brooks after Shane's election outlines his vision for the complete rebranding of the union, defined by the best contract campaign in Big Three has seen since 1946. Everything we do, quote this from Brooks, quote, everything we do at every stage must be reinforcing the message there is a new sheriff in town. Heads are going to be spinning and how fast things are going to change, unquote. We have a new story. We have to tell a story of the new UAW, rather. Reformers are reviving the original vision of the UAW as a force of racial justice and rank and file power. We still have the power to shut down industry and blah, blah. And that power has solely bypassed leaders, it adds. So, I don't want to say I told you so or it makes sense now, but yeah, it kind of makes sense now. I mean, all the rhetoric, all the vernacular that Shawn Fain's been doing, turns out perhaps the puppet had different strings all along, or rather, someone else is pulling. Some puppet metaphor should be inserted for sure. Now, it would be interesting to see, do the regular union members really start to see through this and see their true colors? As Shawn Fain, again, making $350 grand per year while wearing a shirt that says "Eat the Rich," and asking for demands that would literally bankrupt the big three again. Although, for clarity, Ford didn't go bankrupt in 2009 like the others. They were saved by a loan that was very, in terms of timing, perfect timing when they took out the loan. Now, it'll be interesting to see. Now, in terms of the comments, let's see here. Wonder, do you think there's a lot of support for this in the comment section? This is a different, usually we talk about the YouTube comment section or the Twitter comment section. In this case, we have the Daily Mail comment section. Let's dive in. The first one the one that has the most likes thus far is the Miniar Christ. Nevertheless, this person says, quote, makes $350K leached from the labor of others and wears a Eat the Rich shirt. His followers are an advanced level of naive sheep, unquote, getting 14 likes and 0 down likes or down votes. Unleaded92 says, quote, it's cute that the elite pretend to care about the working class. The union members are being used by clout chasers who are seeking more power for themselves. This is an elite on elite battle, unquote, getting 11 likes and 0 down likes. Some named Wally Bear saying, quote, hire scabs and to train the robots, F the union, unquote, getting 12 likes and 0 down votes. Although, I should clarify, scabs is a pejorative term. I think we should call them band-aids, since that's what they do much better. Let's see here. Wally Bear also says, quote, electrician union worked on my job, 4 guys watching, 1 dude working. Main guy kept coming asking the same questions over and over. 1 week, barely anything got done. Hired 2 private electricians. Job done in 2 days. If anyone says they're union, I do not hire them, unquote, in all caps. 13 likes and 0 down likes. Some by the name of Vincel Neal saying, quote, fire them all, move factories to right to work states, build cars, unquote. 11 likes, but 1 down like. So it'll be interesting to see. Let's see, if there's any more comments here. Some by the name of Fry Cook Chef saying, quote, this is why Bezos is building a fleet of robots to work in his warehouses, unquote, getting 4 likes. So interesting how the audience can vary. On YouTube, I noticed the comments are overwhelmingly supportive of the union. And interestingly enough, on here, it seems to be much more against the union. Although perhaps this video might surprise me, and we will, now that people kind of know the true colors of the UAW and what they're becoming more of, perhaps, well, your opinion shift. I'd be fascinated to hear, do you still support them? Or is your support fleeting, or now are you more supportive of the big three who are struggling just to stay around and try to compete with Tesla, which is eating everyone's lunch and presumably their dinner too? It'll be interesting to see, but be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Although, on another good metaphor note, in true socialism standards, the UAW is also the one that censors all their comments for Shawn Fain. You can't dare say anything against them. Their comment section is always locked. And of course, they don't even tell you how many likes the video has. They disable that as well, presumably so that all 18 people can't show their support for Shawn Fain. So, unlike socialists or Marxists, I always believe in freedom of speech for everyone, even if I don't agree with what they are saying. Check out some of the comment section. You'll see many of the statements are fervently against me. However, because I'm an American, I actually believe, while I might not agree with what you're saying, I'll fight to the death for you to say it. I never disable my comment section on these videos. So let me know what you have to say. I'd be fascinated here. Thank you again, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. I know we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of October, so if you can click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment helps me make the channel better and better with your input. Even critical feedback is highly appreciated, because I like to say that's how you grow the most. And also, liking the video lets me know I'm on the right track as well. Also, and lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.